That's where it is. Yes. That's where I planted it down on Sunday. It's a Zois Chanukah today. Just to share with you, Hashem, we say Hashem the Arizal, that the Kavana that we say the Beberchas Yoitzer or we say 8 Shvachim that we mentioned. We mentioned Toivus rather, praises that Kadosh Baruch Hu does for us. So we say Poel Gevuros, Oisa Chadoshois, Baal Molchomois, Zorei Atzedokois, Matzviach Yeshuois, Boyer Refuois, Noyer Sihilois, Adoinan Neflois. These are 8 Toivos that Kadosh Baruch Hu does for Am Yisrael. And they say B'Shem Arizal, it's brought down the way Anayim as well, that each day corresponds to one of the Toivos that Kadosh Baruch Hu just gives, bestows upon us. Each day of Chanukah is Keneged that day. So Yom Rishon is Keneged Oil Gevuros. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mavatal all the Dinim. Yom Sheni is Oisa Chadoshois. Yom Shlishi is Baal Molchomois. Yom Revi is Zorei Atzedokois. Yom Chamishi is Matzmiach Yeshuois. Yom Shishi is Boiri Refuois. Yom Shvi is Noyer Sihilois. When it comes to Zois Chanukah inculcates everything. Adoin HaNeflois. Is there Rebbeinu Shalom who's Adoin HaNeflois, all the plois. Everything that there is, everything Rebbeinu Shalom can be Zoicha, the tremendous Yeshuas on the day of Chanukah. And that's why the Baba Rebbe's Hashem Yidamah, the Rebbe Tzia in Halberstam, which was a Yankala Goldwasser, also Hashem Yidamah, a Talmud of his, who was by Shabbos Chanukah, Zois Chanukah, and Toperish Beitval, mentioned that the Rebbe said, he says, we say, Me'es Hashem hoiso Zois. Zois Chanukah. He says, why is it the Zois Chanukah? Because he neflos beinenu. Because that's the Adoin HaNeflois. That's the time when the Yid can poil ois, all Yeshuas, in a time of this. Who doesn't have requests? Who doesn't have desires? Who doesn't have Yeshuas that we can all use, everyone can use? But we should not forget this week's Parsha, that the Torah tells us, Vayiritzu min habar. Vayiritzu min habar, they hurried Yosef out of the bar. So it tells, the Sephorna tells us on this week's Parsha, it says, Kederech kol Yeshuas Hashem. Just like all the Yeshuas Hashem shenases, k'moy rega. It happens instantly. He says, Ki karoiva Yeshuasi lovoi. He says that so too, just like it was Mitzrayim, he says, Lehispik b'tzeikoi, Cain Omar Lasois HaKadosh Baruch Hu is destined to do la'asid, as it says, Pisoin Yovoi Eleichalo Ya'odor. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to come suddenly. So v'yichalev simloisav. He changed his clothing. Why? Ki ein lovoi el shar hamel belvush sak. You always have to be ready. But we should all be zoicha this Zois Chanukah. That we should all be zoicha to Adoin HaNeflois, to plois, noirois, Beklal, Ubeprat, everyone who needs Yeshuas and Shidduchim, Refuos, Boyer Refuos, Yeshuas, everything that we mentioned, we should be Zoicha Be'ez Hashem. Part of this as well as Am Yisrael also is a time that is, we're hoping, we're looking forward to Adoin HaNeflois. And part of that as well is this, as well that it says Zois Chanukah is Bezois Yovai Aharon El HaKodesh. Aharon HaKoyin is the only one who someone who's a Oyev Shalom, V'roidev Shalom, he can touch every nekuda, the nekuda of every Yid. That's the Yidala, that's the nekuda of a Yid, that's the Or Hagonas in every individual. We have one of our members, Udi, who went a board member as well. Board member as well. And working board member. Working board member. Mamash is getting better. I have nothing to say, but it's getting. A living board member.
you heard what he said?
As every Yid feels the pain of Am Yisrael when and he has wonderful things to share with us. And at that, would ask please, Udi, if you can please share your experience with everyone. Yes,
Oh yeah.
Thank you for that warm introduction. Originally, when I was asked to speak, I was promised that there's going to be a Shechter, who I think is a silent partner tonight, so I'm not going to identify him, but that was originally the premise that I agreed to. But really, the truth is that, when I was asked, it's really hard. I went a few weeks ago, and collecting my thoughts and thinking about what we went for, what we did, what we tried to do was really quite difficult. So what I'm going to try to do is kind of go through some of the ideas. Was really what our initial reaction was when I think all of us heard about what happened on Sinclair, why really we decided to go, when we were trying to hopefully accomplish by going, how we found out what we could do there, what we ended up doing, some stories that we have from along the way, and then hopefully some lessons that we learned from being there and what we saw. Anybody who's ever spoken to somebody who's either in the Israeli army or knows somebody in the Israeli army, nobody's a regular soldier. Everybody's, special forces, West Special Forces, some kind of thing. And so, never meet the cook in the army. But I felt like when we were raising money for the barbecue, that's all people were thinking about. So I'm finally somebody, maybe not the cook in the army, but something close to that kind of rank. Either way, I think just to go through those ideas. So the initial reaction I think we all felt was just really kind of uncertain, really nervous feeling of what was going on. We saw that nobody really knew what was happening on Sinclair, and when we found out, nobody really wanted to really find out on Motzei Yom Tov, Motzei Shabbos, and then we went through that process and we saw what was going on. Really, we felt like we need to do something, but what can we do? What is there that really that we're able to do? We heard that the reserves were being called up. That everywhere in Yerushalayim and all the other cities, they had people said that you couldn't get groceries because there was nobody to unload the stuff. It was really crazy, and so I was thinking, I'm not medically qualified. I have a friend who's a medic and he went. A friend who's a doctor who was there. He's going back and forth. So I asked him, his name is Udi Grunwald. I asked him, should I go? I don't want to sit there and be in the way. Is there something to do? And he said it resonated a lot. He said that you go, you'll daven chakras, and then there's just stuff to do. Just stuff happens. There's stuff you can find if you're looking for it. And so that was really what the impetus was, and this made us decide that we should go. In terms of I think what we were hoping to accomplish, one thing that we felt was sort of on the Al Derech HaMusar is when you have a particular heritage or something you want to do, you have to do a ma'aseh. You have to make it into something. To feel sad or to feel a particular netiya to do something, but not actually doing something about it, it goes away. But when you do something about it and you say, I'm going to take a stand, we felt that at least going and trying to help with something that was an active thing. We also felt that we did our Rabbi Rudner Mechaber Sefer. There was this idea as well that we need to be there. We need to experience it and see what's going on there. And really, selfishly in a certain way, to see what it's like when Klal Yisrael is in the Sarah. And you heard stories and you see things, and we'll get to some of those things as we discuss it. I also felt it was important for us to demonstrate to the people in Eretz Yisrael that people in Chutzlaretz, we're not just living our lives. What we do obviously pales in comparison to what they do, but we are davening, we're thinking, and it's constantly on our mind to the point that it's what we're doing. There's a lot of people, besides myself and my family, who went and would volunteer and went on missions. So I think that really inspires, I think, people who are living in Eretz Yisrael that we were not forgotten. It was really amazing to see that was the impression that was made, and that was one of the reasons we went. And really, lastly, was to sort of try to inspire others that there's something you can do. If we think we're sitting here, what do? We say, hell, we think about what's going on, but there's a lot you can do, and it's really possible to create things and to do things for people and influence them and impact them in ways you don't really understand. We'll talk about some examples, but this idea that everywhere we went with all the soldiers, we had all these letters that children had written, and everywhere we went, in the bases, they had all over the walls. And you think that, how many can they have already? They plastered over the walls, and it was really something that was significant to people. In terms of, I guess, finding out how to do things and what was able to do, some of the things we did was we joined WhatsApp groups for volunteers. We spoke to people, family and friends who were there, and asked them, how can we find out what opportunities there are. There's a lot of things. There's making tzitzis, there's delivering things. It's just really endless, the opportunities that are there. And by getting into contact with those people and just being on the ground and speaking to people, we managed to find those opportunities. So I just want to go through a few things. I mean, Kiva, do you want to put the video on now? Sure. So Kiva made a video of some of the things that we managed to do, and I'll get some color before we go.
Kiva, should you next to the screen, honey?
No. It's like we're going to put it.
Kiva, Kiva, can you breathe?
Let's finish the rest and explain it. Whatever you want.
Maybe next.
I didn't do this.
Thank you very much that you have me as us for being such a great evening. תודה רבה לכם. חבר'ה פה הלוחמים, תעשו לקראת קצרה ובזכותכם, בזכות השותפות שלכם, בזכות החברות שלכם, בזכות כל ישראל ערבים זה לזה, ואתם יש לכם חלק כל כך גדול, הצלחנו לשמח פה 300 חיילים לוחמים שעשו לכמה רגעים מעזה כדי לקבל את החינוך הנפלא הזה, ואני בשם כולם מודה לכם. שכוי לכם, thank you.
This is what we know everywhere. Big day. Okay. When you come back successful. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to go through a few of the things you saw in the video they were able to do. There was we went to there's a picture there. There were 800 vehicles that were destroyed in the attacks, and they gathered them in one place. And if you go, they weren't sure what they were going to do with them. They were talking about making a nazkara or some kind of memorial. But I think Zaka said that there were certain vehicles that they couldn't remove the remains of the people, unfortunately, and so they said they're just going to bury everything. So when we went there, we didn't know that. So we went and we were trying to find a minion for Chanukah, ironically. We couldn't get a minion. We managed to daven there, and it turns out that, we davened, I guess it was some form of basic Baris. Also, unfortunately, when we were there were opportunities to go to Shivas, and really, when a person goes to Shivas, it's very difficult, but here we were going to two strangers. There's one lady who was a lone soldier who was killed in the old city, and she was from Georgia, and her family was there. Just you saw people were coming from everywhere, and by the end of the Shiva, you saw that the people who were sitting Shiva were giving chizik to people, and it was really just an unbelievable thing. It's like kind of upside down when you see that. And there was another, unfortunately, person who was killed. A soldier was killed in Gaza, and we went to the Mesiboh on Sunday, and the parents were like yelling at us and telling people there that how come you're not here? You should be together. Like, and the optics that they were expecting, and that's what they were talking about when they were sitting in Shiva. So it was just something, you just see people gathering and just strangers there just to support. It was really something amazing to witness. So we also went to visit with the families of the hostages in Tel Aviv. We went to visit some of the soldiers in Barzilai down in Ashkelon, and one thing that we found very interesting, especially as Canadians, was we went to visit somebody who were taking some cakes and different things and talking to them. And one soldier, they said to come back in 10 minutes because he had to be stitched up, and they were doing like a CAT scan to make sure he was okay. So we're used to, we'll have the person who's playing sports, he gets injured, he goes back out, so this guy was like, yeah, I'm going, but he went back to Gaza after he stitched up his face. So see something like that, it's really, inspiring, literally in and out. And then there's also something that they set up down south near Ofakim. There's a guy who has a makolet, and he basically, as soon as this thing happened and they went into Gaza, he put a worker in his makolet and he set up a respite area in one of these abandoned moshavs that they had to get everybody out of. And he set up basically tents and a kitchen, and him and his wife are basically cooking and preparing stuff. Just soldiers who are finishing on missions, they come in, they sit there, they relax, they go in and out, and the guy, that's what he does. He's just sitting there. And to go visit that and to see that was really something that just the chesed was overwhelming. We also had the opportunity, my silent partner who bought, I think, 40,000 duffel bags and who knows how much stuff that he brought with him, but we also had the opportunity to bring boots, equipment to soldiers, different things that they asked for. There was a displaced family from the north. We were able to move some of their appliances around. Just those small things really make a difference to people when they basically have nothing because they're just put in an apartment. We did get to do some of the farming that I always wanted to do. There's a picture at the beginning there of pruning some plum trees. All the Thai workers that usually do that, the king ordered them to come home. So most of them had to leave. So we asked the farmers, what's the ratio of Thai workers to us? How many Thai work? How many of us? There's one Thai worker. He said it's 15, something like that. Like I said, I guess I can. Like I said, we ruined the trees. He said some pruning is better than no pruning. So, we just spent a lot of time doing that. Obviously, we talked about the barbecues. We were able to do it for an elite unit of 30 soldiers. Among them was my nephew. The 300 soldiers coming out of Gaza, you really see them. They were coming in full equipment, and we were really right next to it. You could hear the artillery. It was Israeli artillery. You could hear these loud bangs, and it was really, you really felt like you were right there. They actually said that 2 days before, they tried to penetrate. There were 2 terrorists that tried to come in because they knew based on people's phones, they saw there was a bunch of people, so they tried to get in. They managed to protect them, but it's really kind of overwhelming to be there. And then the last place we went to, there's a Rabbi Man here in Clanton Park. So he connected me with his brother, and he asked us to make a barbecue for them. So we went down there, and there's 150 soldiers, and we were trying to understand what they do. And he's explained to us that basically from where I'm standing to probably the wall, he said that this is where when they take the terrorists and they capture them in Gaza, they bring them here. I mean, it's a gigantic base, but this particular area, and in that enclosure, they had 20 that they were holding these terrorists, and they interrogate them there. And he said that's what they do. They basically get them right away. If they know anything about the hostages, then somebody else takes them. But anything to do with the fighting strength or how they're setting up with explosives, those guys get interrogated. They put the VR, the virtual reality, on the terrorists, and then they get them to walk them through what they see. And then they send the interrogators in with their own army unit and the soldiers so they can guide them to avoid where people are hiding, where they put bombs and all that kind of thing. So just the amount of care that they put to protect the soldiers was really quite an unbelievable thing. And the fact that when I was talking to this guy who was the commanding officer to allow us to go in, he's in the middle of a war, and he understands, he's saying, this is very important, we really need to do this for the morale of the soldiers. So to us, it was really just amazing that it made a difference to them, that people senior really cared.
Back up, a virtual reality of what they had in Gaza?
They have Gaza virtual reality, and so
Right,
they
and
put
they
on
put
the,
them on.
and then the terrorist says, that's there, they'll go, they got it.
Yeah.
Well, they know how to interrogate them. We didn't get into the specifics of how to get the truth. But the truth, they said the interesting thing, they said there's 2 tricks.
Board member now knows.
So if I need it for being careful, for Jews. But they said interestingly, they said the 2 ways actually that are more effective than what most of us think they would usually do is, one thing is to ask them a few times because people have a hard time remembering a lie. So 2 or 3 times is one way to discern them. The other thing is they do is a lot of psychological things. So one thing is that they'll find the guy's report card from high school, and then they'll say, we know everything about you, know where your family lives, and so they kind of play with their minds a little bit, and that's how they find the information. But once these guys are captured, a lot of them give it up quite easily, but some of them don't. So it was just interesting to see that, and all those guys also were, everywhere we went, they were asking us about, when are you moving, how come you're not here, and we need you here, all that kind of thing, obviously. The last few things we managed to do was a lot of driving. There was a lot of opportunity to sort things and deliver things. You see warehouses and stuff coming in, and people are just sorting it and sending it. So we drove up to the Golan and delivered to 3 bases, clothing and different things, 100 meals down south, and then 150 meals up north to different places. Because even though the food, I'm sure, is great in the Israeli army, this way they have an opportunity to make them feel like that. They do, I think, 10,000 sandwiches a day out of Lubavitch and Katamon that they deliver to different bases. They have an assembly line, and they make 5 different kinds of sandwiches, and they just do 10,000 a day. Pretty crazy to see that. One thing that was interesting to us was also that even though you're in this big warehouse and they were sorting everything and they're telling you where to go, they called us and they said, we have one request. You're going to Kim, which is like in the north part of where Gaza is. There's a guy who's in a Tivot. He wants to go to his friend's Afra on Shabbos in Yerushalayim. So we have to go half an hour south because he's going to Gaza for the chasna. So, but they found us and they said we do too big. So to me, I found that was a good opportunity to be able to do that. I'm not sure he bargained for 2 hours in the car with Udi Grunwald. That's a different story. So I think those are some of the things we managed to do and the opportunities we had. In terms of some of the stories, just like I said before, in terms of how you see the role of the Avelim switched. It was like they were giving chizuk to all the people coming. It was really something very inspiring to see. As I said about the interrogators and how the way that they built this virtual Gaza to protect the soldiers. And the one thing I think you see there, the soldier who's on the video who's wearing the hat, it was an interesting story. So my brother was asked if they raise money and somebody donates tefillin, can he find somebody to give it to? So they managed to do it. They had one set of tefillin tell us. They weren't sure who to give it to. Like, how do you know? So who do you ask? You ask Lubavitchers. And they said, they said give it to this guy, that guy with the hat. So we asked him, there's a guy running around with him. He's like the head guy. He asked, why is he the right guy? He said 2 days ago, he said he wants 2 things: Talis and tefillin. So obviously he doesn't have that. But the fact that we were there on that particular base was interesting. I just want to end. I know, sorry, it's been a bit of time, but in terms of the lessons that we learned when we were there, there's a few things. One was really just the strength of Klal Yisrael. Seeing what people are doing, you do really feel different. I mean, I've had the opportunity to be yeshiva there. I've been back there Israel several times, and it's just a different feeling. Like it just feels different, and it's very, for me, it was very valuable and important to experience that. And just the fact that that they appreciate what we do, that we can make a difference to them, that they know we're davening for them, and we're telling them that. Like even the lady who was responsible for taking care of the families of the hostages, when I told her that, she could see she got emotional. She couldn't understand. Like, came from Canada, it didn't make sense to her. So to me, you can have an impact on people like that. The fact that these commanding officers and these senior guys, I mean, they are in theory running a war, and that they're making time to allow people. And we're not the only ones. You can ask my silent partner if you blind him. The opportunities that he had, I think he did more barbecuing than I did, actually. And the last thing I think really is, I felt, I'm not making Aliyah tomorrow, but you really feel like, really that's where we should be. I mean, when you see what's been peeled back in terms of the world here, in the States and in Canada and Europe, etc., like, I don't think that goes back very quickly or easily, and it's a very strong feeling. So I encourage anybody who they should go and see, obviously to live, and if anybody has any interest, I'm happy to share my resources and what the plan was. We flew Halal to New York, etc. Anyways, thank you for your time.
We're going to go now to Al Torah just to mention Lashkicham Torah Secha. We find that this Yom Tiv is all about Al Nisim that we mentioned specifically on that, which is pointed out not on the Mulchama but rather Lashkicham Torah Secha Lavira Mechukei Eretzonecha, and the counteract to that is in order to strengthen the Torah, to strengthen the Hisoirus, or rather the Slahavas, the Cheshek HaTorah, it comes through Lahoidas Alahal. And with that, it says, the Silas Shora brings down, he says in Periches, that derech, it says, Liknias Midas Hazrizas, by his Slahavas, he says, is through his staklis beroiv HaToivus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you look at the roiv of the goodness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he does Oisem Adam, B'chol Eis of B'chol Shah, and V'haneflois, and the Neflois Hagdolos, and the great wonder Sha'oisi Imoi, Me'eis HaLeida, from the minute one is born, Ad Yoima Achrein, until his very last day, Kikol Mashi Yarba Listakel, the more he will take the time and to absorb, and to look, and to be Mezboinin, B'dvarim Eila, he says, Yarbe lahakir la'atzmei choyve rabba. He'll feel a tremendous obligation. He says, Elakeil ha'meitiv loy. To the Rebbeinu Shalom who does goodness to him, v'yeh eila and tzoyin. This will be the medium. He says, l'shaloi yis'atzel. A person shouldn't relax. He shouldn't be srapet. It should become it should become apathy b'avedosai. Ki arei hoyil ve'ena yochel vadei ligma. Because no one can pay back says the Mesiboh Sharm to Rabbeinu Shloim. But one thing he could do, Lefachos yoider l'shmoi v'yikayim etzvayso. He can be moider to the Rabbeinu Shloim. That's the one thing we can do. If you're moider like Baruch Hu, then we'll be through lahoides lahalo. That will bring a result of it. One should serve the Rabbeinu Shloim, b'zrizos, b'slahavos, b'cheshik, and that's what the Rabbeinu Shloim. This is the purpose of these days of Yom Elu, of Yomei Chanukah Elu lahoides lahalo. One individual, if we can, we'll ask anyone who comes in contact with Reb Avram, it's the one thing he brings out in the Torah. This slahabis, this cheshik, this geschmack. Any boy who comes to learn in the yeshiva with him in the morning, it's a whole new world. It's another world that they were never exposed to. That's like it's a late. It's a way that it's a later. So this for us, and as an example, for someone to be able to take along for the days haboyamam haboyam aleinu. You don't do Havdalah. It's one yontiv, you don't make Havdalah because we take it b'or b'toich hachoshech. So B'ez Hashem, through that, Rabbi Avram will give us a little bit of his oirus and give us chizik liyamim haboyim aleinu.
What is the takeaway, Rabbi of Chanukah? What is the takeaway of Chanukah? What's the message of Chanukah? There's a Rambam that the Mesiboh made famous. At the beginning of Mad, I can show it to you later, where he discusses Purim. He says the aside of Purim, not something you would have easily guessed, by the way, but Purim, he said, the aside of Purim is to recognize and get into our bones the message that there's nobody like Hashem Elokeinu b'chol kareinu elov. Mika Hashem Elokeinu b'chol kareinu elov. You look at the Megillah, the one thing it says that Klal Yisrael did to get out of the Gzeros, Sumu alai, shloishes yomim laila v'yoy. That's the pasuk. Mordcha za'aka gedarlo v'mara, the tefillah of Mordcha. Says the Rambam, that is the takeaway. That's Purim. Purim is the message that a Yid should know he's never lost. No matter what happens to a Yid, b'chlal b'frat, you turn to Hashem and you daven, and Hashem listens. B'chol kareinu elov. So says the Rambam in the beginning of Mado, in a place after he records the mitzvahs, a small paragraph there, the Rambam writes that. The Mesiboh said, that's what we say, shtal tzu, lo yidiyah shekol kadecha, lo yivoshu, lo yikomu, lo netzach, kol achoysim boch. That's what shtal tzu to this Rambam. Lo yidiyah shekol kadecha, whoever waits for Hashem will not be embarrassed, Hashem going to help him. That's Purim. Chanukah doesn't sound like that's the message. Chanukah, we don't even find, like Klal Yisrael davened, we don't find a mass tshuva movement. I'm sure they davened. I'm sure you didn't do tshuva. It's not found. It's not what we see happened. We see something of entirely different nature. So what happened on Chanukah, or what's the message? And what are we meant to do when we understand what happened on Chanukah? So there's an interesting piece from Rabbi Rudner. I'm going to start with that piece. A very fascinating piece. He was actually talking in the Mice of the Times right after the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. And he said that the Chavetz Chaim said Yid made a mistake. When the communists took over Russia, he said an astounding thing from the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim word for it in Yiddish. I don't have all the words in Yiddish in my mind. He said, Yuden haben farzen. I remember. Yuden haben farzen. Let's show he's saying Yidden. Yuden haben farzen. They made a mistake. He said they should have been loichem against the communists b'leiv nefesh. They should have fought with daggers. Chavetz Chaim said this. A mistake. He said, emes, a lot of Yidden would have gotten killed, but it would have schwachened up the koyach haSatan. It would have weakened the koyach of the Satan. And then he explained. He said there's two types of exeris. There are sometimes there's exer against our bodies, against the guf of Klal Yisrael. Amalek, Haman. When there's exer against the guf, says Rabbi Chanan, that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's message, do tshuva. You've gone astray. You've done things wrong. Daven and do tshuva. Come back. He said there's a different type of exer, entirely different in nature. And that's when there's exer on our mitzvahs. When there's exer against the neshama of Klal Yisrael. Says Motti Fuerst. He said that's a whole different thing, and it's not going to help Torah Tefillah. He loy titzlach. How do you like that? It's not going to help. You could sit and make a kinnis of Tefillah and a It's not going to help. He said it's a certain power that Hashem gives the Satan sometimes, that the Satan has a koyach to break into Klal Yisrael and allow Gzeres to be chal. You can't do mitzvahs. No Shabbos, no Torah, pretzes, no go Taras HaMishpacha. These Gzeres that have a stronghold. He says Rabbi Chana is a koyach ha-Satan. The only way to fight the Satan is not tefillah. Is Mesiras nefesh. If you're moiser nefesh, says Rabbi Chana, you show that no, I'm going to be moiser nefesh for Torah. You said I can't do mitzvahs. I'm going to die for mitzvahs. That weakens the Satan, and then we can have a nitzachim. That's what Mechaber brings to Mechaber Chaim. Mechaber Chaim said that was a mistake. The communists were no different than the Avonim, he said. They came against us with terrorists. 3 million Yidden Nachman. 3 million Yidden Nachman is umgegangen. Nachman was on a ganze Dor in Russland. He said he should have fought. We should have fought, he said. And in a later account, a very fascinating thing, and when Poland was going to make a gzera, there was a gzera on the table against the chinuch. In Poland, Chavetz Chaim, I think that's why he got his passport to go to Poland to speak to the Kaiser there. Chavetz Chaim told Rabbi Rudner that I'm willing, I want now to do tshuva for the mistake in Russia. He said, if Poland does not agree to me, I'm going to declare war on Poland. It's a crazy story. He went to the guy Rebbe, he asked the Rebbe if he's masking to that, if he's mucham to start fighting. And that's a nice one. The end of being it's famous, ended up happening is the Polish case, or whatever he's called. He caved in and he removed the gzera. But the Chavetz Chaim said it's the same thing. When there's a gzera against our mitzvahs, we need Mesiras nefesh. Now there's something missing that I don't find in the Chavetz. He didn't explain when does that happen though. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu make it that in the times of Chanukah the sun should have a power to come and creep into Klal Yisrael, to creep into the kishkis of our houses, our Bati Midrashim, our Batim, and say you can't learn, you can't do mitzvahs? What gave him that power? How and why did that happen? And in Purim it didn't happen. In Purim had nothing to do with mitzvahs. It wouldn't help to Shema in Purim. Nothing with mitzvahs. Amalek wants our blood. Ham wanted our blood. What's the pshat? What's the difference? So if it is, I want to tell you an amazing bach. There's a fascinating bach in the beginning of Hilchos Chanukah. And there's something I realized, I think it was today, about this bach that I don't think I ever recognized. I saw the bach a few times. But I don't think I ever chap this nekuda, and it's a nekuda amuka, a very important point. And it's crucial in the understanding of the difference Chanukah and Purim, and it's crucial in the understanding of why and when the Satan has a power to come into Klal Yisrael and stop us from doing this. The Bach says, Purim, what happened was we did a chet. What was the chet of Purim? What was the chet of Purim? Nenu misudas shalach hashverim. You did an aveiro. An aveiro requires a gzeiro. And a gzeiro requires tshuva. You did an aveiro, you got to be shov. We did tshuva, we davened, Hashem took us back. An aveiro, Hashem says, I'm making a gzeiro against you because you did an aveiro, and Hashem wants us to tshuva. The Bach says Chanukah wasn't like that. He said Chanukah was not the way the Bach writes it. You got to follow. It's amazing how he writes it. There was no chet that the Bach writes, that he records, that he found that we did in the times of the Chashmonah and the Yevon. He says 3 words: Yisrael nisrashlu ba'avodah. Nisrashlu ba'avodah. We weakened our resolve. The levity of mitzvahs was low. How did we regard Dvar Hashem? Was it paramount? Or was it not paramount? Was it secondary? Did it take a back seat? Says the Bach, Nisrashlu ba'avodah. We were weak in Avodas Hashem. Hashem said you're going to be weak in Avodas Hashem? Okay, fine. Midah keneged midah. I'll take away Avodas Hashem. Rabbi Rudner echoes this idea in a Maimer. Rabbi Rudner, the Meshgiach from Mir, when there was a gzera against Shechter in Poland before the war, he said it's because a lot of Yidden were weak in keeping kashrus. So he said, if Yidden are weak in a mitzvah, the mitzvah picks itself up and leaves. That's what Rabbi Rudner said. You're weak in Avodas Hashem? All right. I'll make a gzera against Avodas Hashem. You're not taking Hashem seriously. You're not taking Torah seriously. That's going to be the punishment. And the Satan has a power to say they're not taking it seriously. They'll take away the mitzvahs. They don't deserve the mitzvahs. There's an amazing Rashi in Sanhedrin, which is not very famous. Now it'll become famous. Rashi in Sanhedrin is like this. The Gemara says that at times Bezek could punish more than the din really requires. And the Gemara says an amazing thing. There was a person that drove a horse on Shabbos. He rode a horse. and Bezdin gave him skila. I think everybody here knows that riding a horse, you're not chayiv skila. So why did he give him skila? So the Gemara said, it was necessary. Why was it necessary? So the Gemara says two words that go unnoticed. Bimei Yevonim. The story happened in the times of the Greeks. What happened in the times of the Greeks? What does that have to do with anything? So Rashi explains. Rashi explains, when the Greeks started making Mesiras against Klal Yisrael felt the oppression of the Greeks and how they are trotting on our mitzvahs, and mitzvahs therefore became bezuyois be'ineihem. Klal Yisrael yet more weakened their resolve for mitzvahs. When they saw mitzvahs are stepped on, they became even weaker in mitzvahs. So then the Hedron had to take a stand, and they said, you being weak in mitzvahs, we're going to have to up the ante. Even over a drabban, we're going to give you skila. They have to pick up the ganze morale of mitzvahs. That's Agav, I think the pshat. The Kloizim Agurabas that a lot of Yidden in Auschwitz or Mesiras nefesh or mitzvahs, which obviously the halach is not like that. A person that doesn't have water to wash their mitzvahs doesn't die of starvation. So the Kloizim Agurabas, those that read the book and know the stories, the word would be crazy if I said an English word of what he was Mesiras nefesh for. Kalas kachamura is mamish. I think for wearing a shirt with the right side over the left side. I think on that. There's a story about that. He was Mesiras nefesh on everything. I think the pshat was this Rashi. When mitzvahs are bezuyos, the biggest kiddush Hashem is to pick up mitzvahs, to show they're not bezuyos. Mitzvahs are the be-all, end-all of life. But this Rashi is a very, very instructive Rashi, because I think this is part of the midah connected midah that we're talking about. Klal Yisrael are weak in mitzvahs, so Hashem said, okay, I'll make you even weaker in mitzvahs. I'll make the Avadim come and make Mesiras, and that's going to make you even weaker in mitzvahs. You're going to lower your resolve even more, the morale will be even lower. That's the koyach of a Satan. What was necessary to fight that, says the Bach? One thing and one thing alone was able to fight that. Mesiras nefesh for mitzvahs. Says the Bach, it was necessary. Nothing else would work. Not tefillah and not tshuva. If the gzeros from the Satan's power, because we weakened our resolve in how important mitzvahs are, only one thing is going to work. To be Mesiras nefesh, mitzvahs are everything. Hashem is everything. That's Chanukah. I say Baruch Hashem Nisim, and I thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the Nisim. Purim is the remembrance that Hashem listens to us and accepts our tshuva. And Chanukah is the message that HaKadosh Baruch Hu responds when we weaken, when we fall asleep. We lose our chashivas for Torah mitzvahs. We get involved in other things. And yeah, we also learn Torah, we also do mitzvahs. When that happens, Hashem sends that message by the Sultan having that power of making mitzvahs not attainable, of making Torah difficult. And what's going to help us Mesiras nefesh? Mesiras nefesh, Rabbi say, doesn't only mean to go onto the battlefield and fight a war. You're not learning Torah, you're showing that it's not important to learn. Hashem said, I'll make it harder for you. Then Mesiras nefesh says, no, I'm going to the daf. I'm gonna wash my face with cold water to stay up. I'm going to have a coffee right before. Even I might stay up middle of the night because I want to hear the Gemara. All of a sudden you might find that you're weakening. You knew you always could learn, and yeah, you pushed it off. And all of a sudden when you want it, it doesn't work. Why does that happen? That's why it happened. That was Xero, because you were weakening. You were on a proteistic scale. Midah connected, Midah Hashem made it harder. How do you fight that? You should daven, you should do tshuva, but it's not. That's not going to help necessarily. Mesiras nefesh. Mesiras nefesh. Once there a line that shook me very, very strongly. I don't know who said it, but someone said, if you're by davening and you're waiting for davening to end, Hashem is also waiting for davening to end. It hit me in the gut. If you're waiting to be finished, Hashem is also. And I felt like it's not fair. What do you mean? Hashem has to like my davening. If you don't like your davening, if you want to be finished, Hashem is also waiting to be finished. If you're not machshiv tefillah, he's also not machshiv tefillah. Why should it be any different? I don't want it to be like that. It makes all the sense in the world. The message of Chanukah is to strengthen our resolve in mitzvahs. Our resolve in the supremacy and importance. There's nothing at all as important as being Mekayim Dvar Hashem, and to give over to our families and to whoever we can that message. That's the message of Chanukah. That there is nothing as important, as paramount importance as being Mekayim Dvar Hashem, listening to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, and being careful from transgressing Dvar Hashem. a lichtige Chanukah mitzvah.
Rabbi Rudner is 8.5 years old. He lives in Sderot, southern Israel, at the border of Gaza. His parents and grandparents are Chabad Shluchim in Sderot. A few weeks ago, he came to the United States of America to explain to thousands of people in his audience what it's like to grow up in Sderot, when thousands of rockets are launched incessantly at your homes and schools and gardens and backyards and the streets. You have 12 seconds to run and find cover. 12 seconds. And distinguish between life and death. He spoke of the thousands of times in his 8 short years when he made it from shelter after hearing the sirens, and many other times when he could not find cover and he had to fall to the ground and protect his head with his hands. Avremi addressed the thousands of guests at the international banquet of the Chabad Shluchim.
אני רוצה לבקש מכם בקשה קטנה. תצאו עיניים ל-12 שניות, נבקש לסגור את האורות ונתחיל.
But then he shocked his audience. Instead of sharing the depth of the fear and anxiety during those 12 seconds, he told the audience how over these years of experiencing these 12 seconds thousands and thousands of times, he discovered the power contained in 12 seconds, the potential that lay in 12 seconds, what can be achieved in 12 seconds.
שלוחים, שלוחי הרבה, אני מספר את זה בשביל לצמוח מזה, בשביל ללמוד מזה, בשביל להכיר 12 שניות.
In 12 seconds, Avremi said, you can smile from ear to ear towards a fellow human being. In 12 seconds, you can uplift another soul with a loving word or gesture. In 12 seconds, you can recite a blessing with him or her. In 12 seconds, you can embrace your fellow Jew, bring them joy, offer support and love. In 12 seconds, you can give him or her back their soul, breathe new life into them. In 12 seconds, as you lay on the ground and protect your head, you pray the rocket does not fall on an innocent human being. I guess tonight we can add it takes less than 12 seconds to kindle a Chanukah flame, to kindle a flame of hope and love inside yourself, inside your home, inside another heart. And in the Jewish tradition, the first thing we say when we wake up every morning takes 12 seconds, and it consists of 12 words. When a Jew wakes up in the morning, the first thing he or she says when they open their eyes is Moida ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, she'achazarta bi nishmasi, v'chemla rabba emunasecha. I thank you, living and eternal King, for you have graciously returned my soul to me. Abundant is your faith in me. You have given me another day. Thank you. In our personal lives, the enemy within often sends rockets of destructive thoughts and feelings into our hearts. Self-loathing, anger, fear, shame, insecurity, guilt, negativity, toxicity. I have less than 12 seconds to decide if these thoughts will take me over and wreak havoc in my brain and in my relationships, or my life is too dignified and precious for me to allow myself to be derailed from love and light.
No, I just.
Okay. The donut going to waste. Huh? I won't tell you what.
I'm supposed to eat them all?
No, this one.
There's a few hundred. Who knows?
Is there more?
By the way, Motti picked that one up.
Little refrigerator. No, sorry. So I have a rule that goes like this. Can I just send something along? It's a small thing. I said, really, my bags are pretty full. It's a small thing. I said, bring it over. Are you hungry? No, put a food in slot. And he would say, it won't fit. I said, then I'm not taking it. So this person calls me up and says, can you please take $5,000 for an hour? It's getting married. Now, married. I said, look, I really would love to be part of it. It makes me very nervous to take cash. No, it's under the limit. I grab it. And my wife said to me, but I'm going to Shmira. This is real shliach mitzvah money. Anyway, so I take the money. It's in my pocket. Now I have this thing, when I come through the metal detector, everything rings. Everything just rings. I go through again and again and again. And finally the man says to me, maybe you have cash in your pocket. A lot of people would have cash in their pocket, it rings constantly. So I tuck it into my suitcase. It's the outside pocket of the suitcase, and I close the zipper, and it goes right through. And as we get there, get to the gate, I open up the zipper and I put my hand in it, and the money's gone. It's not there. The face turns red. All the Yidden come want to go. I don't know how they already knew exactly what happened. And it says, go back. And I go back, and I start arguing with them, and they say, no, you got to read your suitcases, and we got to go through it, and we got to check it. It's a whole long story. You don't ask what happened. Maybe open up one of my suitcases and take everything out. And my wife could pack a whole house into a suitcase. Me, 3 pairs of pajamas, I had to jump on it 3 times. It was a disaster. And we finally got to the gate. The money wasn't there. I said, listen, it's not there. What am I going to do? I lose the flight, all my tickets, it's worse. And before we get on, my wife said to me, I'm not letting you, I'm not going. He said, why aren't you going? He said, because you're going to go around the entire trip saying, there's so much money, there's so much money, that's it. Go for supper? No supper, that's it. In shul, they gave out a rumble in the morning, we'll break it up amongst the kids. After I lose so much money, it's not worth going. And they're saying, sir, are you getting on or not? Can you settle this like someplace else? And I'm saying, okay, I promise you, I will not mention the money the entire time. Can you do it? I'm telling you, I won't mention the money the entire time, I promise you. And I had to prove myself right. So I didn't mention the money the entire time. And I said, no, like, I can do it, I can do it. I put this big smile on my face. And we did things we never even did before. And I said, so we had such a great time, you can't imagine. The last day, my wife says, guess what? What? Look at the table. I said, you probably bought a gift for the Baldira. No, look at the table. I look at the table, there's the money. I said, where was it? She said, it was in there. It was all along, just that it slipped past where your fingers go. And I said to myself, I gotta stop and think about this for a moment. If I would have gone through this entire trip, and I would have said, there's the money. There's the money. No, don't tell me about going places. I want to go get brachas on people, okay? And lost the money. And then all of a sudden the money's there. Oh, the money's here! But never mind, the trip is over. Life was very, very fast. And before you know it, the trip is over. In order to see the simcha in your life, says the Sfas Emes, you have to do your best at Shmiras Einayim. I heard this from a lot of people. But once they started being conscious about Shmiras Einayim, they had a shalom bayis they never had before. They had a sprach with their children they never had before. In order for us to find what we have, stop looking for it elsewhere. Find it in your own suitcase.
It's Chanukah. The whole family gets together for a party. There's music, divrei Torah, food. You wash, you eat, and you bench, and then, whoops, you forgot Al Nisim. And you don't know what to do. So you quickly leaf through the Siddur and you find that you can insert in the Harachamons, Harachamon Yaseh Lonu Nisim V'niflois Kasher Asal Aboseinu V'yomim Ahem V'azman Hazeh, which means the compassionate one, may he perform for us miracles and wonders as he performed for our forefathers in those days at this time. But hang on a second, there's a problem here, isn't there? There's an open Gemara that says that we're not allowed to daven for miracles. So how can we openly ask and pray for a nes? Shlomo Kluger answers that the nes of Chanukah was different from all the other nisim, all the other miracles in the history of the Jewish people. Kriyas Yam, the man of the 10 plagues, all of those miracles were preordained from the beginning of the world. They were built into the fabric of creation. However, the miracle of Chanukah was something new. Something not preordained. The nes of Chanukah only came into effect because of the Mesiras nefesh of the Yidden. Our willingness to give up our lives rather than let the Greeks eradicate our holy Torah. That's what brought the nes. From where did that unbelievable strength come from? Rav Shlomo HaKavi says it was a spiritual bequest from Yosef HaTzadik, Joseph. Yosef withstood the ultimate test of his Yetzer Hara. He was Moser Nefesh for Hashem, and thus Yosef instilled into the collective spiritual DNA of the Jewish people the strength to withstand the overwhelming allure of physicality and the Greek world. And because Klal Yisrael was prepared to be Moser Nefesh, so in return, we had the miracle of Chanukah. That means that right now, today, this year, we too can tap into that amazing power and ask for a miracle this Chanukah. And there's no limit to what we can achieve. Everything we want, everything we've been waiting for is there during these days of Chanukah. Realize and embrace the awesomeness, the specialness, the kedusha and the elevation of the days of Chanukah. And remember that it all started with Yosef overcoming his challenge. The next time you meet a challenge is Shmiras Einayim, and the lure of Greece is right out there in front of you. Remember, you have a spiritual bequest in your genes from Yosef HaTzadik, and just like Yosef passed the test, so can you.
So Aaron had to brave the European cold to go down to Marav Chanukah in Vienna. No Judaica stores, but the Shamish always sold candles and different things. And he went down, bought a box of candles and some oil, and wrapped himself in his fur coat, came home, and his little daughter started to scream and cry. She wanted pink candles, and he brought blue candles. Now, I know you've heard bigger tragedies than that. And she said, no, 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 Daddy, go back. And his wife said, you're not going back in this cold. Who says the Shabbos is even there? And Aaron said Chanukah is once a year. And he went back, and the Shabbos wasn't there, and he found him in his house, and he got him to go back to the shul, and he brought home the pink candles, which he ran over and hugged their father, and they had their Chanukah. And a couple of years down the pike, things started to change, and changed badly in Austria. Really went bad. It was the Anschluss. They're running away from Vienna, they're trying to avoid the ghetto. Father, mother, and daughter, and they're going from farm to farm, and they're hiding out. And one night a farmer comes out with a shotgun and says, get off my property! And he says, I remember you. We were colleagues. We taught together in school. He said, now you have to get off my property. Can you at least keep us here overnight? I could wind up being killed. You know what? That kid. Leave the kid here. Kid had blonde hair, blue eyes. They said, no, we're taking our girl with us. You out of your mind? You're taking the kid with you. You leave that kid here. And he threatened with his shotgun, and they had no choice. They left the kid there. What happened in the next couple of years, I don't know, you don't know, no one knows. Only Aaron is left, or whatever was left of Aaron, and he's going from farm to farm looking for his daughter, and he bangs on the door and he sees her. She's a teenager now. And he hears the mother say, Christina, get the door. And she opens up and she says, who are you? What do you want? And he said, you're my daughter. And she went running and said, there's a crazy man over here that's saying I'm his daughter. In seconds, the father came out with a shotgun. He recognized him and said, get off my property now. But that's my daughter. And he grabbed him and started pulling him out, and he was looking for some words to say, and finally he said, Chanukah, the pink candles, don't you remember them? And suddenly there was a look of recognition in her eyes, and the last couple of years were deleted, as she charged toward him, Abba, Daddy. And they knew they couldn't stop her. There's something about the Mesiras Chanukah that's part of us, that's within us, that doesn't get lost. Where do we like Mesiras Chanukah? It's put in the worst possible place from a strategic standpoint. By the door toward the outside, toward the bottom, darkest time. Because Chanukah light is about a pilot light that's within us. We stare at the Mesiras. The Svarim say, by looking at the Mesiras, it generates a little pilot light that's within us. It doesn't make a difference how badly we blew it. It doesn't make a difference how far away we are from any feeling being close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It doesn't make a difference how much we're tossed into pain and it looks like our lives are in a wreck. Somewhere in the Chanukah left there's a power. If we're careful with our eyes, then we're zeichet to see it. We can all cry, Abba, we're coming home.
Until the beginning of the 20th century, business in the United States of America was largely an East Coast affair. The movies changed all that. Movie making was a new business, and it was as wide open as the Wild West. The owners of the first New York movie theaters were almost exclusively Jewish. Now, those movie theaters were hungry beasts, and they needed a constant and varied diet to keep them full. So, those theater owners looked around for a place with year-round sunshine to film in, low rents and plenty of cheap labor, and they found some sleepy orange groves a few miles outside the city of Los Angeles. The place had a rather bland name. It was called Hollywood. From a few oranges, a legend was born. If a lot was new about Hollywood, some things were not. Hollywood was really the latest chapter of a 2,500-year-old dialogue. A dialogue about how you get beneath the surface of things, about how you get to the truth. The dialogue between Jerusalem and Athens. You might have thought that the story of Chanukah was about how a small group of Torah-loyal Jews trounced the armies of the Greek Empire. In fact, it's a story about how the Torah beat out Hollywood, or its 2nd century BC equivalent. Because more of a threat to Judaism than the Greeks themselves were those Hellenized Jews who wanted to be more Greek than the Greeks. The Hellenists adopted Greek names, they patronized the theater, which the Greeks conceived of as religious worship, and to compete in athletic competitions, they removed the evidence of Brit Milah, the mark of the eternal covenant between God and the Jewish people, circumcision. Why did these Jews abandon their faith? Look up to the sky on a cloudy day. All you can see are the clouds. It says in the book of Job, by his breath the heavens are spread. The word in Hebrew for spread aside is shifra. God spreads aside the curtain of cloud to reveal what is beyond. Shifra has the same root as shapir, which means beautify. In Jewish thought, beauty comes only from the revealing of the essence of something. Art for art's sake is a contradiction in terms, because something that reveals nothing but itself can never be beautiful. Beauty can never be skin deep. The Greeks and their ideological heirs believe that art has a power to take you beyond, to connect you to that which is above, and through art and artifice you can get to the truth. Poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge wrote that poetry should bear a semblance of truth sufficient to procure that willing suspension of disbelief for the moment which constitutes poetic faith. Now, this willing suspension of disbelief is at the heart of all theatre and film. When we watch a play, we know that the person who just died so messily over the stage will be doing exactly the same thing at the 3:15 matinee tomorrow afternoon. And in the movie, we all know that the monsters tearing the luckless villain limb from limb are no more than a few billion pixels generated by a computer whiz in an air-conditioned Hollywood special effects factory. And yet, those illusions move us. It's just a dream, isn't it? Moved by illusion. Can't illusion also be a kind of truth, says the Greek? If the emotion is true, does it matter that it's a fiction? The heart of the debate between Athens and Jerusalem is that the Greek believes that celebrating the surface can take you beyond the surface, beneath the surface. That illusion can lead you to truth. The Jewish view is there is illusion or truth. And illusion only takes you to greater illusion. In those Hollywood dream factories, you'll find so many talented Jews who can't resist the challenge to light up the world. Neither could Chagall, Rothko, Modigliani, Pollock, Mahler, Kafka, Mendelssohn, Marx, Trotsky, Freud, or Einstein. Some 15% of all Nobel Prize nominees have been Jewish. We want to light up the world, but there's no brighter light in the world than the Torah.
Motti for arranging, and Akiva for the entertainment. Yashikoya.
We'll dive next door.
I'd like we can dive in here. We have the menorah here, right? Okay.